Hi, let's talk about prejudice. The kind of prejudice that goes into claiming that minors can't consent to sex because of some supposed fact about their brain, some supposed deficiency, inferiority in their brains. Imagine if we made that claim about races or sexes. It would rightly be considered racism or sexism. If we claimed that women have inferior brains, you could point to some pop science finding, or even a fact like their smaller size. You could attribute that your prejudice to that fact. You could claim that you're not prejudiced, you're being scientific. Because science tells us they have 10% smaller brains or whatever it is. Which would be true on some level, but it would be an unjustified inference you make from that. But as soon as the topic is age instead of sex or race, well, then it is politically correct to be prejudiced. Not only politically correct, it is required. If you want to be an army, if you want to fit in and be what is now considered an acceptable person, then you cannot contradict this prejudice. You have to go along with it, and you have to basically believe it. So let's look at what it is they believe and how problematic it is to let a prejudice define a person. It really is problematic, and that is why racism is problematic. And even just these claims that some races are inferior, those are problematic claims. I don't agree with criminalizing them like Norway has done. But I certainly oppose racism. And by the same token, I also oppose ageism. Age category is equally unfounded, equally prejudiced. When you take something you think you know that cannot be observed, you don't observe brains. Unless you're one of the very few people who perform an autopsy, and even that is rarely done. On most people, that's never done. You never have a direct experience of a brain. That's a significant insight. You can realize that you never have direct experience of a brain. And even this whole physicalist idea that the brain causes mental states is philosophically dubious when you think about it. But for this intent, purposes of this discussion, I'll grant you physicalism, okay? Let's assume that may well be true. Now, it is nonetheless true that you don't have access to brains. Unless you're a pathologist or serial killer or something, you don't see brains ever. And if you do, you see none of these supposed differences. These supposed differences are just pop science claims. And those pop science claims are, to the normies, more important than all of direct experience. Just think about how this prejudicial notion replaces all of our experience. Like, this is worse than claiming something like black people have lower IQs or women have lower IQs. If you claim that, then you at least leave yourself open to the possibility that somebody is an exception to that. And somebody from these groups have a higher IQ than you. They could beat you on an IQ test, and you would be forced to admit that at least this person is smarter than you. No, we're talking about a more sinister kind of prejudice. A kind of prejudice that is not open to empirical testing at all. And it admits of no counterexamples. You can't find a minor who is below the age of consent who can consent according to normie wisdom, because this metaphysical fact that they believe is a fact is more important than all of our experience. This supposed fact that concerns something you never experience. You just trust some pop science claims. The more you think about it, the worse that is. I mean, it's prejudice. And it's a very sinister kind of prejudice that is, we would never allow it for racism. But for age cookery, it is required. It is mandatory in order to be a normie.